All right, so I'm dropping F-bombs like crazy on today's show. It's a good thing there's not one next week. Johanan in Thiensville. Is it Thiensville?
Thiensville.
Thiensville, how you doing? Thanks for waiting.
Hi. I put this on the Rational Skepticism Forum, and a number of the people tried to refute it, but some of them said outright that they couldn't refute it. And they didn't accept the conclusion, but they had a hard time with it, and I wanted to pass it on you guys to see what you think.
They couldn't refute it.
It's a philosophy argument.
John, how do you pronounce your first name? I'm sorry.
Johanan.
Johanan. I'll tell you right from the get-go that when I hear this could not be refuted, I have an instant prejudice, and I want to make sure that I get that out of the way first. To me, it sounds very much like a shifting of the burden of proof. I've presented this, and people couldn't refute it, which doesn't tell you at all whether or not it's true.
Okay, the premises are true. I'll see what you guys think of it.
Okay.
So both you guys, I think we're all pretty much on the same page here that we believe that substance dualism is false, correct?
Yes. Sure.
Okay. So now, you've heard of Chalmers' hard problem? The argument was that Chalmers' hard problem demonstrates that mind is not reducible to non-mind, and therefore since dualism is impossible, monistic idealism entails.
Yeah, you lost me already.
Okay, let me rephrase that. You can't reduce the mind to non-mind, therefore the mind is fundamental. Dualism is impossible, therefore no other fundamental substance can exist.
I don't necessarily know that you can't reduce the mind to non-mind.
Okay, I thought you might attack that, which is I had a backup argument on that premise, a very simple one. You can conceive, now this is not to say that it's true or anything, but you can conceive that the world is solipsist, correct? You could conceive hypothetically that everything else, John is a hallucination, I'm a hallucination.
You're asking me, do I think there's a solution to hard solipsism? No, I do not think so, but that doesn't mean there isn't.
Okay, so that would mean that in some world, not our world, obviously I'm not a solipsist, you're not a solipsist, but in some possible world,
actually, I kind of am.
There actually is a solipsist world and a mind does exist in it.
No.
Not in a Leibnizian sense, like a hypothetical. It's a modal logic argument.
Yeah, which I am not remotely interested in modal logic arguments, and have been on record of rejecting Axiom S5 and this. I don't see the use in any of this. That talking about possible worlds. I'm more interested in reality and arguments that deal with reality and the one we experience.
Okay, well, the purpose of modal logic is that you can intuit things about the actual world.
Yeah, and I don't value that.
Okay, let me rephrase it in such a way that perhaps isn't modal in nature. Then, you said there is not admitted there is no solution to hard solipsism, right?
No, what I said is that I don't believe there's a solution to hard solipsism, but there might be.
Okay, so you don't believe there is. But the reason that you can conceive of that in the first place, the whole notion of hard solipsism, is because you can conceive of a world in which a mind could exist, which is purely solipsistic. Right?
I can conceive of that. That doesn't mean that I can conceive that it is possible.
Okay, so the reason that is logically possible, even if it isn't true or even if there is some way around it perhaps, the reason it's logically possible is because you can put the concept of a solipsistic universe together with a mind in such a way that they do not logically contradict. The properties of the mind are such that they could fit into a solipsist world even though maybe that's not the case.
I don't know that that's true.
Well, so, for example, when you conceive of everything, when you're thinking in
I
your brain...
don't conceive of everything, but okay.
Okay, when you're thinking in your brain, everything that you perceive or conceive of is actually a perception or an idea. You don't actually perceive the matter itself, and likewise, you don't know of John's conscious state because you're not John, right? So all you actually know about the world, you do this all the time without even thinking about it. All you actually know about the world are your perceptions of the world and your own inner conscious experience.
Okay.
And so, because of this, you actually do logically, consistently conceive of solipsism all the time without even realizing it.
Okay.
Okay, so now that being the case, since the mind could exist in such a world, and we can also know that, material things cannot exist in an immaterial solipsist world.
How do we know
Therefore,
that?
the mind cannot be material.
Yeah, material things can't exist in a fully immaterial world?
Yeah, you can't put it, obviously this is contradiction in terms, you can't put a material object into an immaterial world.
Sure. What reason do we have to think that
immaterial
world is not even a coherent concept as far as I'm concerned?
But for arguing for idealism, then it could be.
Yeah, I tell you what, why don't you just email us? Because right now people's eyes have glazed over.
I know mine have.
And I don't know what this has to do with anything.
Okay, well, my whole argument was that when you bring this about, the entire fact that you can conceive of this demonstrates that the mind has to be immaterial because it could not exist in a material world. And there are other arguments from philosophy of mind going in the same direction.
Well, it depends on what you're actually labeling mind. The mind may not be anything. We're talking about potentially an emergent property of the brain. And so, you may be mislabeling what the brain does as an entity. And
that's based on a posteriori reasoning, which is from neuroscience. And a posteriori reasoning always follows from a priori reasoning. And so, for example, if you doubt the existence of the mind, then you have to doubt the existence of the scientific method as well.
No, you don't.
Yes, because you have to have a mind to do the science in the first place.
Oh.
Remember Descartes' first meditation where he...
Yes, I think, therefore I am.
Right, and remember how he arrived at a conclusion? He tried to doubt everything he could possibly doubt. He said, maybe I'm in a dream, maybe this isn't real.
I am agreeing. This is about identity. What I'm talking about is, maybe I wasn't clear, what you are labeling as mind, you are and I'm not asserting that this is true, you are labeling something that is a function, but not an entity. So
that's a category error, though.
How is it a category error?
Well,
Let me finish. How is it a category error if all I'm saying is that we have no way to be certain that you aren't simply mislabeling a function of the brain as an entity unto itself? Because asserting that there is the brain and the mind is dualism.
I'm not asserting that there is a brain in the mind. I'm asserting that the brain is in the mind, rather.
The brain is in the mind. I don't see any reason to assert that at all. I see only the brain and the brain doing stuff.
Okay, when you look at the brain, what do you see anyway, though?
Well, I don't tend to cut people's skulls open.
You see it on TV or see it somewhere. You see color qualia, don't you? And shapes. These are mental constructs. Everything you know about the exterior world via science and induction reduces to qualia at the end of the day.
I reject qualia. Sorry. You should just go ahead and email us.
Science.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, and this is so off base, and you've got about 3 or 4 white flags here. So just go ahead and email us because qualia to me is just nonsense. Thanks, sir.
All right.
I think where he's going ultimately is trying to define God into existence again in yet another way.
Yeah.
And my eyes glazed over about 2 minutes into that. But
yeah, if all my mind can do is conceive of the world, therefore I have no reason to think that the world outside is actually real. I think that while there is no firm defeater for that concept, I think there is one, but I'm not going to go into it. And then you get to that our brain is within a mind, and that there's a universal mind, and then there's God's mind. It's qualia, the idea that there's something. An essence of what it's like to be this thing. Let's take another call.